What if I told you that one of the most advanced nations in the world, Germany, fell under the influence of a man whose hatred became law? What if I told you that behind the uniforms, flags, and speeches was a plan, calculated, methodical, and built on lies? This is the chilling truth behind Adolf Hitler's plan, and why Jews were specifically chosen as targets. Let's go back to the early 1900s. Adolf Hitler was not yet the dictator the world would fear. He was a struggling artist in Vienna, poor, frustrated, and aimless. But he was also soaking in the dangerous ideas of the time. Antisemitism wasn't born with Hitler. It had already been spreading across Europe for centuries. In Vienna, Jewish people were often blamed for social unrest, political corruption, and economic inequality. Newspapers, books, and political figures pushed the idea that Jews were a threat to pure, European society. Hitler read it. He believed it. And worse, he built his entire worldview around it. When World War I ended in 1918, Germany was shattered. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept full responsibility for the war, pay enormous reparations, and give up land. Millions were unemployed. Inflation was out of control. The country was humiliated. And people were angry. They needed someone to blame. Hitler gave them one: the Jews. In his infamous book Mein Kampf, written in prison, Hitler claimed that the Jews were the root of Germany's problems. He described them not as a religious group, but as a race, one he believed was evil, manipulative, and dangerous. According to Hitler, Jews had infiltrated Germany's politics, media, and economy, and were secretly controlling it from the inside. None of this was true. But it didn't have to be. What mattered was that it sounded like an answer to millions of broken, desperate Germans. By 1933, Hitler had risen to power. He became Chancellor of Germany, and within months, democracy was gone. He created a totalitarian state where loyalty to him was law. And one of his first moves? Start removing Jews from German society. It began with propaganda. Posters, movies, and schoolbooks all portrayed Jews as greedy, dirty, and dangerous. Laws were passed that banned Jews from government jobs, schools, and even public parks. Non-Jews were encouraged to stop shopping at Jewish businesses. Families that had lived peacefully for generations were suddenly targeted, watched, and harassed. In 1935, Hitler passed the Nuremberg Laws, which stripped Jews of German citizenship and forbade marriage or relationships between Jews and Aryan Germans. Jews were now foreigners in their own homeland. But Hitler wasn't finished. In 1938, during the terrifying event known as Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, Nazi mobs destroyed Jewish businesses, burned synagogues, and arrested over 30,000 Jewish men. The message was clear: there was no future for Jews in Germany. And then came the final solution. In 1941, Hitler and top Nazi officials put their most horrifying plan into action: the total extermination of the Jewish people. This was not just murder. This was genocide, carried out with chilling precision. Jews were rounded up from across Europe and sent to ghettos, then to concentration camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor. Families were separated. Children were torn from their mothers. Many were sent directly to gas chambers. Others were worked to death. Mass graves were dug. Entire communities vanished. By the end of World War II, 6 million Jews had been murdered, just for being Jewish. So why were Jews targeted? Because Hitler believed that fear and hate were more powerful than truth. Because he knew that blaming a group for the country's pain would unite people under him. Because antisemitism was already present, and all he had to do was weaponize it. But here's the darkest part: Hitler didn't act alone. Millions of ordinary people, neighbors, teachers, shopkeepers, turned a blind eye. Some even joined in. Because they believed the lies, or they were too afraid to speak out. History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it does echo. Today, we still see how dangerous hate can be. We still see people targeted for their religion, race, or identity. And we still see how silence can be just as deadly as violence. Uncovering Hitler's plan is not just about understanding the past. It's about protecting the future. We must remember the truth. We must recognize the warning signs. And above all, we must never forget what hate can do when left unchecked. If this video helped you understand the deeper truth behind the Holocaust, please share it. The more people who know, the fewer who will ever forget.